What is up, guys? We are with Stewart Huff, who just performed on stage and murdered it with and without a microphone.
Had to go both ways.
It was pretty. It was pretty impressive. The mic cable had an issue, and they started to mess with it. And he was like, "You know what? I got it." And then finished out about 20 minutes.
Yeah, probably the last 20 minutes.
20 minutes, no technology, just straight vocals to the crowd. That was pretty awesome.
I found out I've been doing one-man shows in these little theater kind of festivals. No mic.
Yeah.
So, and I just got very comfortable. It's weird at first when you're so used to having that mic.
Right.
When you don't have it, you kind of like, what do I do? But once you do 30 or 40 shows without it, then you realize that you're real restricted.
Yeah.
Once you can get comfortable dumping that mic, then all of a sudden you have this to work with.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
And neither did I until I started doing it, and I was like, oh, crap, look at this.
It's a lot. I mean, you lose 50% of your hand gestures if you're holding the mic.
Yeah, exactly. And you end up doing weird things with one hand.
Yeah.
So I didn't care. When the mic popped, big pop, and then I was like, yeah, whatever. Let's just dump this thing.
Well, I didn't even think about that, but I have thought about this. Like when you're doing stand up, a lot of times you try to think of what gestures you're going to use, and sometimes you're like, oh man, I would do this, but you can't because you got a microphone.
Yeah,
huh.
yeah.
So what? You've been doing stand up now for 20 years,
at least.
Is that the low play number?
Yeah.
How long?
Yeah, probably somewhere between at least 20, maybe 25.
Okay.
Somewhere. I'm so bad at years.
I
started in the late 90s.
Okay. Were you, before you got into stand-up, were you like a zany personality, like the bad kid in school?
No.
I
was a weird kid.
Right.
I would come up with bizarre, at the time, I didn't know they were bizarre, but looking back on it, it's really like there was something wrong with this dude.
Like what?
Like, you remember in gym class you had to climb the rope?
Right.
Right. So, and I had pre-planned this.
Okay.
So I climbed the rope, and instead of stopping at that tape mark where you're supposed to stop, I keep going.
Right.
And then I grab hold of the beam, and I pull myself up and sit on the beam and pull the rope up with me. No other kids could climb the rope. And I just sat up there staring at people. And the teacher's like, come down now. And I didn't yell back. I just stared at him.
There's nothing they can do.
And there's nothing they can do. And then they all just sat there until class ended. And they go get the principal, and the principal comes, and I just stared at him like I was a freak, because I was. And they have to call the fire department and get a big, huge ladder. And then, of course, the firemen come up and get me down, and then, I have to go home. I had to go home and tell my dad. And my dad says, why can't you just get drunk like normal kids? And it was, looking back on what I would do in school was, I'm bored.
Right.
What can I do to not be bored anymore?
Yeah.
And I really didn't. I didn't mean to disrupt, but that's what I did.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? If I was a teacher, I would hate me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So looking back on it, I was not the class clown. Like, hey, everybody.
I don't know. That sounds pretty close.
Yeah, but it was very quiet and weird.
So you weren't doing it with the intent to make people laugh. You were just doing it to be odd.
I thought it was funny.
Okay. So it is funny, because guess what? I just laughed my ass off.
Right. Here's another one. Our high school was up on a hill.
Yeah.
And then the middle school was next to the high school, also up on a hill. And they opened a video game. I'm old. This is way back in the day. Galaga and all that stuff, Pac-Man and all that. There was a video game, a pizza place, McDonald's was at the bottom of this hill.
Yeah.
So kids would cut class and go down this hill. So the principal and the assistant principal would stand on the roof of the high school with binoculars, and they had a security guard cop in a car.
Yeah.
And they would go, Jeremy's going down to the video game place, pick him up and bring him back, things like. And I thought, I don't mind a cop and bad guy kind of but you can't use binoculars. That's not fair. So I climbed up on the top of the middle school and stared at the principal and the assistant principal with binoculars, until they eventually like got around and went, and I waved, and we're just looking at each other. So Stewart's on top of the middle school, and the security guard comes, and I just stared at him in the binoculars. I mean, it's all designed just to. I would think this is funny.
Yeah, it's pretty.
I'm gonna do
funny.
it. So yeah, class clownish, but it wasn't like I'm gonna be loud and get a. You know what I mean?
But that's the best kind of funny, though.
Yeah, to me, you know what I mean? But yeah, but I wasn't that. When people say, "Were you the class clown?" I was the class weirdo.
Man, I think that is kind of the class clown. I think it's just actually funnier when you do it that way. Like the guy who does it, I was a disruptor in high school for sure, but I think I did it like I think I needed a little bit of attention there, right? Like what you're saying, but it does get attention. I don't know, but you're more subtle about it than I think I was.
Okay, but it is at the root of it.
It's a comedy. It's comedy.
Yeah.
Bit.
I want attention. I mean, this whole thing. I've got a thought. I've got an idea. I'm gonna go. I mean, who do we think we are? We're elevated, amplified, and illuminated.
Right?
Do we think we're that important? Obviously.
Yeah.
And we need attention. We come up here, we say things, and then if people agree by laughing, then we feel good. And if they don't, the whole thing's attention getting.
You know what I think though? It's an odd play as far as being important because really, you're only important if the next set kills.
Yeah, it's tragic. I mean, it's
like a reset every time.
Yeah, and it never ends. It's like I've been lucky enough to be around some famous people that, and I'm not saying I'm friends with them, but I got to see them or open for them or something, and they're going through the same thing. They're 20 years older than me, famous, got money, still worried about the next set.
Right.
It never ends. It's a stupid thing.
But it is. If you're not worried about that next one, that's I think when you do start doing terribly.
I would assume, yeah. When you just don't even care,
right? You
ought to quit.
Yeah. So you still have, like, even now with your experience, you still have like nerves and stuff before you go on.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, they've changed.
They're like deadened some.
When I was younger, it was a pure fear. Mm-hmm. It was, I didn't take the mic out of the stand because if I did, it would just shake.
Right.
It was pure fear.
Uh-huh.
Now it's nerves like, come on, let's go. I want to go.
Oh, yeah.
I want to go.
Like good nerves. Like you're like a boxer getting ready for a fight.
Yeah. Like, the feature act tonight, I watched him and, he was funny and everything. But but in my head, I'm like, come on.
Right.
Come on. I've got a new chunk of material and 5 new pieces that I can't wait to get up there and do.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about for me at this point is I'm trying to build this. The show I'm doing right now is a new show, and I'm trying to build it. And it's all about, is this going to work? And I'll go back to the hotel room and with the information I learned tonight and go, well, that's going to work, and no, that's not going to work. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's all about material for me at this point.
So tonight you're testing a lot of material.
Yeah.
This seemed like an odd crowd to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. You still killed it, but it just seemed like maybe I don't know, it seemed like a different crowd than.
They were, I think 80% of them knew each other, if not more.
Okay.
There was one guy that was retiring, and his birthday's coming up, and the majority of the crowd all came out for his retirement kind of, so they all knew each other.
Right.
And then there was handfuls of this person, that person that didn't seem to be part of the group. But that's always a weird dynamic.
Right.
When the majority of the crowd all are one group,
Yeah.
So they were a little weird, But, it's still the same thing. It's like I've got this bit that I'm going to be doing, and I'm going to be really listening to find out, how was I right? Was I wrong?
Right.
All that kind of stuff.
And when you're coming with a new bit, because I think tonight's crowd was an older crowd, right?
Yeah.
So when you've got stuff, having an older crowd versus, let's say, even a mixed age crowd, I really felt like tonight's was predominantly older. Does that change the delivery, or also with it being kind of one age group? Do you take the feedback the same way as you would? Because I would think this would be like a fluke. I wouldn't feel like that's an accurate segment of the general population.
Yeah, I mean, I think this was odd, but I think that's for me anyway. I want to say this first before I say that.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm right. I think I'm right for me.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I would never tell another comedian, you're doing that wrong, or you shouldn't do that, or anything, because I think that's the beauty of this art form, and I do think it's an art form. The beauty of it is you're different than I am.
Right.
And so you could go to a comedy show and see 4 different comedians. You're seeing 4 different people express what they think is funny.
Sure.
And I love that. So in these comics that run around say this person's wrong and he's wrong and she's wrong and all, what are you doing? You're trying to make us all the same? It's crazy. I hate that kind of crap. So for me, I don't change my material at all. I don't care where I'm at. It's a constant. Every show is a constant. I'm trying to perfect something. And then once I get it the way I want it, I go and record it, and then I dump it all and start again.
Wow.
That's the way I operate.
How many times have you gotten a recording out now? What's your number?
8.
8 recordings.
I have 8.
That seems to me like an insane number.
Yeah, I love writing. It's my favorite part about this job, you know. Now, like I said, if I was to sit here and tell you that's what you should do, I don't believe that. You should do what you want to do.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, and I like, once I get, it'll take me however long it's going to take me to make this show say what I want it to say and be funny and all that kind of stuff. So tonight's crowd was a little weird, a little older.
Yeah.
But, you know, I don't care. I need that. Tomorrow if we come out here and it's everybody's 22, then okay, let's see how this works on a younger crowd. It's, you know, the front row tonight was younger than the people in the back, right?
Yeah.
And it was interesting that there was several points tonight where the front row was so with me and the older people were not. And I noticed that in my head. I was like, okay, so that's a and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not going to change anything.
You're just observing it.
Yeah. Like that it's okay if that hits, those jokes hit a younger crowd and the older crowd just absolutely didn't jive with it. And then there was other times when the younger crowd was not with me, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's kind of beautiful. It's all subjective. But to answer your question, I don't change anything.
So then all right, you said that you're going to go back and work on this then. So there's got to be some level of change. But how do you decide if you're not going to change something, if you're going to change something, like how that seems like a tricky decision. You know what I mean?
Excuse me. Yeah, I mean, what I meant by change was like, if I walk in the door and I say, oh, this is kind of an older crowd, that doesn't, for me, I don't change my material at all.
Right.
I don't have material that, okay, well, this is an older crowd, so I'll do this joke.
Right.
And then. No.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah. Everything I did tonight, you know, I would have done no matter who was here.
Right.
And then I'm going to, like, this is an annoying thing about me. It's annoying to me, is I like ideas.
Right.
So, you know, I've got a chunk in the show I'm working on right now that's about, you can't convince another person they're wrong with logic.
Yeah.
Okay? I don't think I'm accurately getting it across to the crowd that is, so I'm tinkering with it, but eventually I will find the wording that, whether you agree with me or not, you understand what I'm saying.
Right.
Right now, tonight, I rambled. I even said half a dozen times at points during the show, I said, am I expressing this well to you?
Yeah, I've called that a couple times.
Now, if you see me in 4 months, hopefully, I won't be saying that because I've figured out exactly what words I need to say to get my point across. Whether you agree with me or not, this is what I'm saying.
Which then, if you know that you're getting the point across, then you know that, like, if it's a confusion thing, then that's something that can be easily fixed.
Yeah.
But if they understand it, but they just still don't think it's funny.
Right. Right. See, I think that's it's something that took me a long time to learn, and I see young comedians that do this. They'll go up and they'll tell a joke, and they'll go, well, that wasn't funny. No, you didn't express it.
Right.
Correct. There's 90 million reasons why a joke doesn't get a laugh.
Sure.
And not being funny is one of them.
Right.
You know? So I mean, to me, I go up and I say something that I feel is funny, and it doesn't get a laugh. I don't care. Well, I do care, but it's not. What I'm trying to say is I'm not going to be like, oh, that wasn't funny, I'm dropping it. I take it back to the hotel, and I look at it. Is there a word in this joke that I thought was a common enough word, but it's not? Maybe I could change. Maybe I can. Is there another way I could say it? You know what I mean? You tinker with it.
Sure.
You can't get your refrigerator to work. You tinker with it, and you go, it just started up. What did I do?
Right.
So that's most of my life is just tinkering with the wording and the placement and the idea, and do people know what I mean when I say that? All that kind of stuff. And what I found, and it took me forever to learn this, is you tinker with something long enough, then one night you got it. That was the exact way I should have said that. And then the laugh will come.
That's some solid writing advice right there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a big part of it. And sometimes it's just not funny.
Right.
Sometimes.
But then if it's not funny or if they just didn't understand it, that's why it's not funny.
Yeah. I mean, the ending of the show right now is not working. The ending of my show right now is not working. And on paper, it should. Mm-hmm. I am not willing to say it's not funny yet. I don't believe that is the answer. It might be, but I don't believe it. I believe right now there's something else in the way, and I can't figure out what it is. I've done it 10 times, and it's worked twice. Uh-huh. It's not a good number, you know what I mean? But I'm still going to mess with it and tinker because in my head it's the correct ending to the show, and it should work. In 6 months, I might relinquish and say, I guess it's just not funny.
Right.
But I'm not going to give up. I mean, I'm getting on a rant now. To me, you have to be more stubborn than the audience.
Right.
You have to be. I know I'm right. But you also have to be not so stubborn that you're not willing to admit you're wrong.
Right.
It's a balance.
Yeah.
But you can't be weak like, I tried it once and it didn't work.
Right.
Once is nothing. 50, do it 50 times.
That's awesome. So look, we're going backwards now because I feel like you gave us like a bunch of meat from the middle.
We need to get some jokes in here.
No. No, I was curious. So you are definitely, in my opinion, the type of person that becomes a stand-up comic because you're a wild one. You're not really following the rules. The binoculars thing is the perfect example. What was the other one you just said? What was the other the prank? Oh, the rope thing. The climbing up on the rope. That's like a rule disruptor. That's definitely. And I went. When you think of class clown, you definitely think of someone that's like trying to get attention and always saying something funny at the right time.
Yeah.
But I do think of that kind of as a class clown and not as an insult. Like it's not an insult, right? Mm-hmm. But I do think
it's not an insult.
It's entertainment, and nobody else in your class. I mean, I guarantee nobody else in your class was thinking of something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's that part to me, and I do agree with you. It's class clown. It's just kind of askew.
Right.
It's just a little. It's not you. If you asked a typical person, just stop them on the street, describe a class clown to me. What they tell you, my guess would be, is not exactly what I was. But it's. I've always been very interested in human behavior.
Yeah.
What makes humans act like this? I remember one time I got in a discussion with my friend. I was a young man. I was in my early 20s. At Blockbuster Video, you remember Blockbuster Video stores?
Yeah.
You could rent. So, we got in a discussion about human behavior. And I said to him, I'll bet you $100 that if we owned the deed to a Blockbuster Video, we could stand in front of it with the deed in our hand, and every person that came in, we could say, do you want to own this store? Here's the deed. It would take us a week to give it away because it's abnormal.
Right.
So people are just going to ignore you. Anything that people see that doesn't fit in their world, they ignore.
Right.
So we went from that to, well, we don't own a Blockbuster, but we do own a lot of weird shit. So we set up a table in front of the mall and had a big sign that said free stuff. And we had all kinds of stuff on this table, and we just sat there and watched people. And what we learned is young children and old men Those are the only ones that will approach the rest of the people. We saw people get out of their car, see us from a distance, get back in their car, drive over here and park and enter in another place. You know, that kind of stuff always fascinated me. Why are people acting the way they're acting? And then conversely, how would they act if I did this?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I would love that kind of stuff.
That's
class clownish.
It is, but here's the thing. Is it's subtle. It's not like super, super attention grabbing. But if you had that stuff on video, I feel like those would be maybe not viral, but I feel like those would be huge video hits.
They're almost like philosophical experiments with human beings.
Which I feel like that would drive a lot of attention.
Yeah. It's not like Jackass kind of stuff.
No, but it's
which is
also
funny.
Yeah, but that stuff is still also funny. It's just subtle.
Yeah. Yeah, I've always been much more subtle than what I would consider most people's definition of a class clown.
And here's the other thing is this. Nobody would notice you doing that except for the principals, right?
Right.
Now, obviously, your PE class because you did it in front of the PE class.
Sure.
But if your attention was directed to it, people would think it's super hilarious.
Yeah.
But nobody's attention would be directed to it. You were TikTok famous in a non-TikTok era.
Right. I remember one time in school there was a window behind. I was sitting in the last seat of the first row. There was a window behind me, and we didn't have air conditioning in the school, so the windows would be open, when it was nice out. And whenever the teacher turned around, I did this one day, and I'd planned this. It's like I was writing bits, She turned around, I climbed out the window, and then I walked around and went back in the door, and she's at the board, and I walk in, and she goes, "Why are you late?" And she'd already called roll, and I went, "I had a dentist appointment." And then she goes, "Okay, we'll sit down." So I go and sit down. She turns around again. I climb out the window and go back around, walk in the door. She goes, why are you late? And I went, "I had a dentist appointment." And I go and sit down. And third time she goes, "What is going on?" And I went, "I had a dentist appointment." And then I went and sat down. I just did it until she stopped me from doing it, I don't know how many. I did it 6 or 7 times easily. Every time she turned around. And the class is like trying real hard not to laugh. But it's great. She was so confused, I think confusion is a big part of what kind of made me happy.
Yeah?
Yeah, a little bit like, what? It's not violent or destructive.
It's not.
It's just like, it's like the Matrix. Someone messed with the Matrix, It's hilarious.
I don't think I would have had the balls or courage to face someone and maybe I would have. I don't know. But all right. So you're definitely a class clown, definitely a disruptor, right? Mm-hmm. You went from that, and then what made you think, "Oh wow, I should do stand-up"?
This is an honest statement. I think it was a mistake, but I think mistakes are underrated. I think mistakes are fun. I think it was a mistake in many, many different ways, financially, emotionally, and I have no reason for it. I didn't want to be in college. I hated college. I was in a relationship that wasn't going well, and that ended, and then I dropped out of college. And usually when you look at comedians, there's something that happens. There's something that broke in their life that made them, either they'd been dreaming of doing comedy, and then this happened, and that forced them on stage, or they just stumbled into a club because she left or he left or whatever. I looking back on it, I was a fan of comedy when I was in high school. I loved Lenny Bruce. I loved George Carlin, Richard Pryor, but it had never occurred to me that I could do stand-up comedy. Never. I'd never thought about it. And then I dropped out of college. The relationship was over. I ended up homeless. And then I literally just decided I'm going to be a comedian. I just don't think I had any other, you know what I mean? It's something I grabbed onto.
So how did you get in?
I went to a comedy club. The first comedy club I'd ever been in, I signed up to go up. Mm-hmm. And they didn't let me up. But I just decided I'm going to do this. And so I would go back, I would watch. And again, I was living in my car, I was homeless. And it took me forever. This is in the late 90s was a different scene. Now comedians have shows everywhere.
Right.
Like there's probably what 25 independent shows in St. Louis.
Maybe not that many, but there's
A lot. You could get on stage. Back then in Atlanta, Georgia, open mic was Tuesday night. They put 4 people up.
Wow.
And that was it. There weren't shows all over town. So I would go in there. Oh, you want to talk about a class clown thing? I would go into the Punchline every Tuesday, put my name in the hat, and never get drawn. And I'm sleeping in my car, and I was furious, just furious that I couldn't get up. So and I would always sleep in this 24-hour Kmart. This is back when there were Kmarts, and there was a 24-hour Kmart. And I'd sleep in the parking lot. You know, it was fairly safe because they're open.
Right.
So one night I'm in my car. And this is that class clown weirdo mentality. I thought, why do I need a comedy club to do comedy? What rule is it that says there has to be a club where jokes are told? People love jokes. So I just went into Kmart, 3 o'clock in the morning, stood in the electronics department with my notebook, did my show, just standing there. And people would walk. It was incredible to watch them. People would walk by and like steer away from you and not make eye contact. And I, and the security guard came over and goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm trying to get on stage at the Punchline, but they won't put me up. So I just figured I'd do it here." And I remember this, Jeremy. He goes, "Tell me a joke." And I went, So I tell him my best joke, and he goes, "Yeah, you need a lot of work." and I don't know. I did. 20, 30 shows at Kmart.
Wow.
I just kept going back. I wouldn't even go to the Punchline. I'd just drive to Kmart and wait for it to get late. I never went at like 8 o'clock at night. It was always early with all the weirdos in there.
Yeah.
And it got to the point where I'd walk in and they go, "Hey, Stewart, have a good show." They didn't give a shit. And I would just stand there and read my jokes. And I was in public. And occasionally, not often, but occasionally people would come back there and go, "What are you doing?" I'd say, "I'm trying to be a comedian. You want to hear some jokes?" Now, I'm 50 now. I was 23, 22, something like that. And if you said to me right now, "Let's go to Kmart," I would say, "You're crazy. I'm not doing." Do you know what I mean? Like, what made that young kid have the balls to? But I just wanted it. I wanted to be a comedian.
Yeah.
You know?
And so, all right, you're doing Kmart shows.
Yeah.
And then how'd that transition to the shows?
I eventually got up here, there, and I would go to the club and I would meet other comedians from around the country.
Uh-huh.
And I would, I would ask them, I would talk to them, and then I would say, "Oh, you're from St. Louis. What's going on in St. Louis? And, can you get up there?" And you would say, "It's hard," or whatever. But eventually you figure out this town, and this town will put me up. Like I learned.
Like if you perform.
Yeah. Like I learned that Chattanooga, Tennessee had a club that on Sunday nights. Now, the Punchline in Atlanta, 4 open micers in the middle of a regular show. Chattanooga was Sunday night, no regular show. It was all open micers, just like a normal mic.
Yeah.
And I met some guy from Chattanooga. He goes, "Yeah, you just come out and we'll put you up." I was like, "What?" So every single Sunday night, I was in Chattanooga. Now, I would drive to Virginia, South Carolina, Florida. I lived in my car. I would drive 8 hours.
How would you get gas money to go from spot to spot?
I would pick up a job. I washed dishes at a Denny's, and I would
stop in and be like, "Hey, I'll wash dishes."
Oh, you can. Yeah, washing dishes is. I don't know about now, but back then you could get a job washing dishes anywhere.
Wow.
I would wash dishes at Denny's, and then I would say, "I need tomorrow off. I'm going to go do this show." And they would go, "No." And I would go, "Then I quit." And I'd quit. And then I would go to another Denny's 3 miles down the road and,
And wash there.
I washed dishes at a strip club in Atlanta. It was the greatest dishwashing job I ever had. The guy actually said to me in the interview, I don't know how dirty you can be on this podcast. I'm doing an interview to get the dishwashing gig at a strip club.
Right.
Right. And he asked me all the questions, and and then he goes, "All right, you think you can do this job without masturbating?" Yeah. And, it was a decent comeback. I said, "I'm going to give it my best shot." And he goes, "Okay, I don't think you can make it. Most guys can't." I was like, they have problems with dudes masturbating while they're washing dishes.
That's the litmus test. If you can make it through without masturbating, that's it.
Yeah.
Man.
I mean, I think that's the thing, really. And when you most of the time when you look at like a crew you go into a town and there's 10 young comics. Most of the time, not every time, but most of the time, you can look and see. You and I could sit in the back of a room of a club in Omaha, watch the open mic, and you could say, she's the funniest, he's funny, she's funny, he's funny. We can pick out the funniest ones.
Sure.
But if you want to figure out who's going to make a living at this, look at the most dedicated. It's not the funniest. Sometimes it is, but it's the person that absolutely refuses to fail. You know, most people, they're funny, they get laughs, they enjoy it, they hang out, they have some beers, they got some friends, and then they get offered a job at their dad's office or whatever, and they go, yeah, you know, I'm just going to do this for a little bit. Nah, it's the ones that are sleeping in their car, the ones that are driving hours to get on stage, the ones that are writing 7 nights a week. Those are the people that refuse. They won't be told no, you know, and they'll figure out how to be funny. But those are the ones that end up making a living at it. Yeah. I think
so too. I mean, I see a lot of guys, you know, I see a lot of guys that are like funny and they might have like a 10-minute set, but that's like all I've seen them do, right?
Right. Yeah.
And then like, so that means they can't be writing new material if for like the past, you know, because I'm a noob. I'm a comedy newbie. Mm-hmm. I'm not even at 2 months. I'll be 1 year.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
Thanks. But I see a lot of people that are doing the exact same set. They've been doing that set. That's what they're working. You know, I don't know if that's just what they're working on, but it doesn't seem like they're writing new stuff. And then it's like, I don't see them doing the hustle work to book shows. I don't see that stuff. And who knows? Maybe I'm new and I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, which is probable. But I also think that that kind of mentality of I'm not going to push it. I'm just going to like wait for it to happen kind of thing.
Right.
I think I love that, not because it's a good idea. I think I love it because if someone's just going to sit around and not push the envelope, they're going to not do all the things they need to do to get booked, do the extra writing stuff to write new material, and they just sit in the comfort of the material that they've got present, right? They know it's going to work. That's what they do. I think if they're going to not do that stuff, I think it's awesome because that leaves the door wide open for guys that are gonna do it.
Sure.
Sure. And you know, there's like a little bit of comfort there, I guess, if you're a hard worker. I feel like comedy's one of those few things that, sure, you might know the right person or whatever your situation is, but if you can do the work, if you're willing to do the work, the rest of it'll come, I think.
You know, I mean, some people just flat out get lucky, and it happens all the time. Somebody just whatever. I was doing comedy. I'm not saying me, but I'm just making somebody up. I was doing comedy 7 months, and then Dave Chappelle walked in and loved me and took me on the road. You know, there's always people that get lucky, but like Greg Warren is a St. Louis favorite, right? Greg Warren is a worker.
Yeah,
that boy is a worker. I mean, he writes the material. He does what he's supposed to do. He's constantly
tests it again.
It's very the way he attacks the business is a worker mentality. It is a job.
Yeah,
you know. I've always loved Greg, but I'm different. I'm a lot different than Greg. But writing to me is more important than where I'm working, you know what I'm saying? But writing, I approach like a job.
Yeah.
I write 7 days a week.
Wow.
And I have figured out how to make myself love it. Like I actually look forward to writing, you know? Well, I think here's another theory of mine that I'm probably wrong about, but I have a feeling that every person has a specific way that they write the best. Some people, like Jerry Seinfeld, I've read, he used to literally set an alarm and get up and write. It was like an office job to him. He would write until lunchtime, and then he would break and have lunch, and then would write. You know, some people sit and write on a laptop. Mm-hmm. You know, everybody write, but I think I wish I would have figured this out for myself earlier, but you have to figure out how your mind and your body works, you know. So the way my mind works. There is a. Let me put it this way. I'm rambling. There is a writing style that will unlock your greatest creativity.
Right.
And you need to figure out what that style is. Mine, it took me forever to figure out, is it needs to be at night. I rarely write during the day. Unless, of course, if something occurs to me, I write it down. But I'm talking about dedicated writing.
Right.
I turn everything off, television, everything. And when the weather's nice, I'm outside and I walk in a circle in my backyard. There's a ring in my backyard where grass won't grow. And I walk and I talk out loud like a crazy person. And I don't try to be funny. I just talk. You know, I met Jeremy at St. Charles. I like the room. It's new. I don't know. The weekend's not here yet. We'll find out what. I just talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. And I don't try. I stop trying. I just talk. And when you do say something that's funny, it stands out. It's like someone put a flashlight in your face or something. You're like, whoa, that's great. You know, I don't like Universal. I mean, I'm glad I went because my son wanted to go, and that was fun. But, God, I hope I never have to go back to that place. The parking sucks, and how dare they, and this, you know what I mean? And when you do say something. So, and anyway, and then I just write a couple of words down on a pad. And I keep going, keep talking. And it's just hours. I mean, sometimes it's, 5 or 6 hours of just talking.
Wow.
And then I have 2 pages of thoughts that are interesting or funny. And then I can take those 2 pages and then really look at them. You know what I mean? But if you put me in front of a laptop and say, write something funny, I'll sit there for 5 days and come up with nothing. I need to move, talk.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think it's back to Greg Warren. Those type of things, like figuring out how you write, is a work thing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like all of a sudden I'm going to tell you you're going to work at home, and you got to figure out, how am I going to do this? Because I got to be productive.
Yeah.
I think approaching it like a job is a good thing, as long as it doesn't become, as long as it doesn't suck all the fun of it out. I've met a couple of those people that it's just 100% pure job, and they don't seem to be having fun at all.
Right.
And at that point, I'm just like, I don't ever want it to get like that.
Yeah. I feel like that's I don't know. I'm so damn new, but I'm just trying to relay off of people that I've heard, that I've heard doing this stuff. And I think for a lot of people, there's just that internal passion for it. And I really think it's leads back to just being like that disruptor type.
It might. It's an addiction. There's no question about it. It's an addiction. And like any addiction, it's got its positives. You know what I mean? But it's definitely an addiction. And when COVID hit, the weirdest thing for me was I average on the road pre-COVID. I averaged about 45 weeks. I was on the road. Okay,
wow.
Somewhere around there. Sometimes 42. But it was usually between 40 and 45 weeks a year.
So are you flying out to a show, performing a show, then flying back home?
Yeah.
And then so you got like 3-4 days where you're back home, and then
Yeah.
you fly out to the next show.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I'm married and I have children.
Okay.
When I was single, I would just go.
Yeah.
And I don't mind sleeping in my car, and I like crappy hotels. I enjoy them.
Yeah.
So I would go to Montana, and I would have 3 weeks of work, in the Northwest, and I would just crash at a campsite or in my car. I loved it. I'd be gone for 4 months. I don't care.
Right.
Once I got married and kids, now it's I leave and come back, leave and come back, leave and come back constantly. But when COVID hit, the thing that I didn't realize that I learned during COVID was I'm addicted to the life. I have to move. It drove me nuts. Sitting at home every day. Like, I get along with my wife. It's a good relationship, and I love my kids too. But damn, is this all you do? Is just you're in this house every day? And I literally would get in my car and drive, and then turn around, drive home.
Yeah.
So I'm addicted to the stage, but I'm also addicted to the lifestyle of it, you know,
Yeah.
which is another thing I don't think people. I think I've known several friends of mine that open mic'd and worked hard at it and got all the way to the point where they started getting some work
Right.
out of town,
Right.
and then they hated it.
Because they had to drive. They had to do exactly what you're saying. Drive
Yeah.
around and be at a different place all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's also like, you know, you've been doing it a year. You have friends in the business, right?
Absolutely.
Comedy. You have good friends. You're not going to see them.
Right.
Once you start working, they're not it's going to be as big of a part of your life.
Right.
Because they're not going to go to Kansas City with you.
Right.
They're not going to go to Chicago. You're going to be alone. You know, being a comedian is being alone. You know, which I don't have a problem with. But so the lifestyle changes too.
I think anytime you're trying to get to a mastery level with anything, you know, think about this. If you're in a sports, you know, your team's there for a certain aspect of practice, but if you're trying to be the best, like it doesn't end when practice is over.
Right.
Right? You better be hitting the gym after the practice is over. You better be out doing that extra cardio time. You better be looking at every aspect of your diet.
Sure.
You know, those things, I mean, there is a level of loneliness. And if you're trying to be the best, you can't be the best and follow the pack.
Oh, no. But there's that, I forget who it was. There was a guy who wrote a book. I'm blanking on his name right now, but his theory, which makes a lot of sense, is it doesn't matter what you're doing. You want to be the best football player or the comedian or you know, farmer, whatever you're doing, 10,000 hours. It takes 10,000 hours to be good, of 10,000 hours of practice. And geniuses get there quicker, but they get there in like 9,000. It's not like they get there, you know. One of his examples was Bobby Fischer, the chess kid, but he still put in the time. You know what I mean? Like a decade of constant chess practicing,
Right.
studying, learning. You know, I mean that's it's like anything you want to do if you really. And it's not you versus your friends.
Right.
That's another thing that drives me crazy about. And I'm being bitchy about.
I like it.
About comics. You know, is I never liked that competition
Right.
attitude because this is not basketball.
Right.
You know, basketball, you're a team, and you need to, as a unit, you need to go up against the local high school as their unit.
There has to be a winner and a loser.
Right. In comedy, you're against yourself.
Right.
That's how good can you be?
Yep.
That's the challenge. And if you're not writing, you're not practicing, you're not getting in your car and driving and all that, then you know you're not interested in the competition. You're not going to grow.
Yeah. I think also the other the other parallel is just because one person is winning doesn't mean everyone else has to lose.
Oh, yeah, it's ridiculous.
And I feel like that's something that gets lost on a lot of people.
Usually, this is again not always, but usually if you have, let's say we're in St. Charles right now, right? Let's say we did a show tonight and there are 10 young comics, 1 year in, okay? Generally, not always, but generally, the person that gets the most laughs is doing the easiest material because your skill set 1 year in is not that good.
Right.
Okay. So, sex, drinking, drugs, you know, the easiest things to write about because everybody in the room has those in common.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Even if they don't do drugs, they're aware of them and they know some jokes about them, you know. So, the person that goes up that is doing some really interesting, out there, challenging, it doesn't even have to be like political or any of that. They're just doing interesting material. That's harder. It takes a skill set.
Yeah.
You know, you got, in order to do really unique material, you need to have the skill set to be able to pull it off.
Right.
So I see this quite a bit where somebody will go up and they're doing easy material.
Sure.
And they do well. And they walk around like they're the king. And then someone will go up and not do well, but their material is far superior to the person that did well. And then you look forward to 5, 6 years, the person with the interesting material assuming they stuck with it and didn't just quit,
Right.
their skill set will catch up to their material, and then they will blow past the person with the easier material.
Huh.
Yeah, it's like running a race, and the person that takes off the quickest, they're not necessarily the one that's going to win the race. They just took off the quickest.
Right.
You know, I love it when I see that happen.
So here's what I want to ask. I'll give you a reference point. So I'm in the middle of a book right now, comedy book. It's like, don't do hack material. What's hack material? It's sexual. It's talking about your private parts. It's what else? What else is hack stuff?
No, I don't even know. I know what you're saying, but I don't even.
You said sex, drugs, alcohol.
Yeah.
All right. But you don't call it hack. It's just like beginner easy material.
Yeah.
Okay. So my question is this. Guy Torrey was here a month ago, and he murdered it, but he talked about a lot of dick stuff. He said swear words all over the place. And I mean, it was punctuating his material, and he murdered it.
Yeah.
So I asked him specifically, I was like, that is what some people call hack material. What do you think? And he said, man, I don't really follow the rules. He said, I do what I do. That's what I do, and I keep doing it.
Right.
So then my question is for people that are starting out year one type level that you're saying don't do
No, I'm not.
You're not saying
that.
don't do it. You're just saying that's what they gravitate to.
No, what I'm saying is, if let's just say there's someone that is their life, that's what they're into and that's what they like, and so they're writing material that is true to them.
Sure.
But it's easier for the crowd to understand. So the skill level that it takes. Let's say, you're wearing a Space Force shirt right now. Right? Now, let's say both of us are a year in, okay, of comedy. And I have a bit about getting drunk and then trying to have sex, but I've got whiskey dick.
Right.
And you've got a bit about the Space Force. Mm-hmm. Okay, and we both are a 1 year skill set. I got $1,000 that says my bit's going to get more laughs than yours. Is my bit funnier than yours? Maybe, maybe not. We don't know. But if we were 10 years in and had a 10-year skill set, you could make anything funny. Space Force? Sure, absolutely. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
The way I feel about it is this, Dave Attell, in my opinion, is the best dick joke writer that's ever been, ever. I've never heard anybody be funnier about dicks than Dave Attell. I think it would be a shame for anybody, any comedian, to say Dave Attell shouldn't do that. Do I think Dave Attell is hack? Hell no. That's the most advanced dick joke writing I've ever heard in my life.
Right.
I don't think like that. We're different people. I like bits, that are about philosophy and human behavior and that kind of thing. Does that make me superior to Dave Attell? Absolutely not. That means that I'm me and he's him.
Yeah.
So if Guy Torrey, if he wants to go up and cover these three topics, that's absolutely great. Good for him. Now, the thing is, to me, what hack becomes is, did you steal it from someone else? Is it not really you? If I went up and talked about I'm a badass in the bedroom and I tear up the women, you look at me, that's a lie. That's a lie. When I see someone not being who they are, that's hack territory to me.
Okay.
That's when you're starting to, you're trying to do well by impressing them with not being honest. Do I think Dave Attell is obsessed with sex? Hell yes. Hell yes. Do I think he gets laid a lot? Hell yes. And when he's on stage, that's what he talks about. That's who he is. It's not my kind of comedy, but it's some of the best comedy I've ever seen in my life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To me, I think it's a mistake for a book to say, here are the hack topics. That's an absolute mistake. Because, hack to who? Richard Pryor did bits that were directly, quote, tearing up the pussy.
Yeah.
And I cry with laughter. I choke. I just like, it's so funny to me. I would never, it would never even occur to me to write a bit like that. It wouldn't occur to me because I'm not him.
Right.
I mean, you know what I mean? Am I making myself clear here? You know?
Oh yeah, no, I would. There's no way I could say so. I couldn't even say that on stage.
No, neither can I.
There's no way, and there's no way I could do that.
No, but I'm glad he could because my God, was he good at it?
Yeah,
you know. And I'm glad. You know, I see the only type of comics that I see that I think are wrong are the ones that aren't writing their own material, that are stealing other people's material. And the reason I hate that is because you're not being you. Nikki Glazer, that's another one from St. Louis.
absolutely.
Funny as hell.
Yeah.
Dirty. You know, come. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I laugh. When she's on stage, she makes me laugh.
Yeah.
I've never heard her do material that I think, oh, her and I agree on this. Do you know what I mean? She's a different human being than I am.
Right.
And I've always thought she was hilarious, but just it's dumb to say she's wrong for what she's being herself.
Yeah.
You know, if she's stealing material from someone else and it's not really her, then I have a problem with that.
Right.
You know.
Yeah. Man, you got any other tips for anybody out there listening right now?
I've been very, preachy on this, haven't I?
I fucking loved it.
Okay.
I loved all of it. No, you got a lot.
You know, it's just strange because as preachy as I've been tonight, I feel so confused. Like comedy is the most annoying thing. You rarely feel like you've got it. It's always like you have a good show and then you think, oh, I think I'm figuring this out. And the next one you feel like, oh God, I should go back to the strip club. You know, it's so you never feel secure in your footing.
Right.
Right. Here's the way I think about comedy. This is my tip for young comics. Let's say hypothetically you write 3 jokes and you go up on stage and you do them. Let's say one of the jokes you love. You've been giggling about it. You're so proud of yourself. Like you wrote it and you think, my God, that's a good one. And you giggle and you're delivering your pizzas or whatever you're doing. And you're proud of that joke. Okay, so you got one that you love. You got one that you don't like, but you think it will work. Okay? And you have one that you are indifferent about. You don't know how to feel about it. All right. So let's say you go up and you do all 3. The one that you do, the one that you love gets nothing. 0.
Yeah.
The one that you hate gets a laugh.
Right.
The one that you're indifferent about does okay.
Right.
All right. Here's my advice. You never stop doing the one you love. You do it every time you're on stage. Tweak it. Look at the joke. Move it around in the set. Don't open with it. Close with it. Put it in the middle. Look at the wording. Look at the idea in it. Can I say this a different way? Constantly mess with that joke. Blah, blah, blah. The one you hate that got a laugh, if you're a young comic and you need jokes that work,
Right.
then you keep it, but in your mind, you're trying to get rid of that joke as soon as you can.
With something better that you like doing.
Yes. The goal should be that every joke you tell on stage, you love. And the reason I say this is because you want to be you. And if you love a joke, there's a reason. There's a reason. And I think most jokes are fixable and funny. It's just how long is it going to take you? And the more complex an idea is, the longer it's going to take you to figure out how it's funny, how to make it funny. So you go up and the joke that you love, it doesn't get anything, go up again tomorrow night and tell it a different way. Go up again the next night, tell it a different way. And then you say to me, how long should I do this? Well, how stubborn are you? How bad do you want to be a comedian? You know, my favorite things I've ever written. I've got 2 jokes right now that I still have yet to get a laugh. They're 5 years old, and they have yet to get a laugh. Now, if you tell me, well, they're not funny, I'm not ready to admit that. You know, I've told both of them, I don't know, 1,000 times. They don't get a laugh. not quite ready to admit they're not funny. Because one night I will tell it correctly.
Yeah.
And then I'll figure it out. Do you know what I mean? And you should, it's just a long-winded way of saying you should always be searching for what makes you laugh, what makes you, and if you behave that way, too many young comics dump the ones that don't work and keep the ones that do. And if you behave that way, in other words, if you let the audience determine what jokes you tell, you are going to be the most boring comedian. Yeah, you're going to work faster. Yeah, you're going to get gigs, blah, 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 at some bar, whatever. But you're going to be boring. The ones that you really love, stubbornly hang on to them, And then if you behave like that, you're going to wake up one day and realize, I'm different. I'm unique.
I think I realized that like a long time ago.
Do you know what I mean?
I do.
I mean, that kind of stubbornness will lead to you being completely different than everybody else, because no one can be like you if you follow what you really are. I mean, that's advice I wish I would have had a year in.
I think that's pretty awesome advice. Well, that is it. Stewart Huff, he's going to be here in St. Charles all weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Come check him out.
No Sunday show because the Super Bowl.
Sunday because the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Super Bowl Sunday, no show, but Friday, Saturday, so don't miss out. Make sure to come down, check them out. These are probably going to be sold-out shows the next two nights, or nigh sold out. So if you hear this in time, get a ticket, and thanks so much for coming on.
Absolutely. Thanks so much.
That's it, guys. Have a good one. Peace.